Aaron Ask America.
Welcome to Aaron Ask America. Today's podcast, we have JR. He's a friend from church. We've gotten to know each other over the past few years, and as soon as I came up with the podcast, he was definitely one of the guys in my sphere of friendship that I was like, I gotta get him on the podcast. But real quick, first podcast in 2026. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. This is a Batman shirt from the greatest fan that we have, my father-in-law. This is Affleck Batman, the greatest Batman. But enough about Batman. It's about JR. JR,
Hey,
welcome to the podcast.
thank you. Thank you. Pleased to be here.
Yeah, so first question, hardest question I'm going to ask of the night. Who is your favorite superhero and why is it Batman?
Okay, so that means who is your favorite Batman? Gotcha.
No, it's who's your favorite superhero?
Well, for me, it's going to be Superman, Christopher Reeve Superman. I mean, I remember when that came out, that was just like such a big thing. And I was so just in love with the concept Superman. And yeah, I always heard of Superman and everything, but never was really a big comic book reader. I never was. But when Superman came out, it was just like, wow, that's awesome. And for me, Christopher, even though I liked some of the other ones afterward, Christopher Reeve is Superman to me. It's my age group. You know, I mean, I think when that came out, I was like 7, I think, 7 or 8.
1978, I think is when it
So,
came out.
yeah, so I was 7, yeah.
Yeah, so Christopher Reeve is a Superman I grew up, right, watching, because it was Superman 1, Superman 2, I think Superman 3 had come out by then with Richard Pryor in it. And then finally the last one where, you know, the guy scratched Superman. It was awful. It was an awful one.
It was.
But then, for me, you know, it was Dean Cain and I forget the girl's name, Carrie something.
Yeah.
But right. So it was them. So, like, that was kind of growing my comic book nerddom. But, like, where my true comic book nerddom came from, along with my love for Batman, was at my grandma's house. I would spend the summer at my grandma's because my parents didn't have a lot of money. The 2 kids, get rid of one of them. So, in Houston, in the middle of the day, they'd play 4 episodes of Batman 69. Or, I'm sorry, Batman 66. And I would spend a lot of time watching all those episodes.
Same.
And so, like, I found this love for Batman. And then my Aunt Tammy, who's now gone on to be with the Lord, she took me to see Batman 89. That's when it was on for me when it comes to Batman.
As far as Batman, yeah.
As far as Batman, because for me, like, I've always been a fan of kind of gothic kind of stuff, but, like, Batman to that point had been Adam West. So, like, for me, seeing this new dark version of Batman, because I didn't know about the Dark Knight Returns. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, I didn't know
series.
about it. I didn't know about
So
it.
this was my first, like, look at something dark. Joker was like Jack Nicholson doing.
Yeah.
He wasn't so much the Joker as he was a gangster, but still it was like amazing. So Superman is, I would say for me, probably I'd say top 10 superheroes, just because he's the first superhero, right? He was Action Comics #1 is iconic. I think it just sold. Did you hear about that? Some kids, their mom died, and when she died, they went to her house, and there had always been like this goofy legend of the family that mom had this comic book collection from when she was a kid. So they go up into the attic and they start going through her stuff, and they come across her comic book collection, and it's the highest graded Action Comics #1 ever, and it sold for like $9 million.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It just happened, I want to say 2 or 3 months ago. Action Comics #1 was in the attic for years.
Thanks, Mom.
Yeah, I know. I know, right?
Wow.
Just like that, boom. Overnight, you find this, you get it graded. They graded it. It was like, I think it was like 9.7 grade. It's the highest graded ever, and it went for $9 million.
Wow. Well, because since you're bringing up Batman, and that for me, like you, where the first exposure was the 66, loved it, and all of that. And then when it came to 1989, I went to see that in the theater, and I was like, "Wow, that's awesome! I loved it, loved it." I thought Michael Keaton did awesome. I mean, the whole movie was great. Something to say about the other ones, but that first one was great.
Yeah.
But if you ask me, who's your favorite Batman, I would have to say I'm going to go with the Dark Knight series, which even though I like Michael Keaton, but Christian Bale, that it made it, yes, it made it kind of darker, but it was just more in-depth story. Mind you, again, I never read the comic book, so I don't know a lot of the backstory, but this bought what people say, yeah, that's a lot of the backstory is correct and all of that.
League of Shadows, yeah.
Yeah, so it was great in that sense. And for me, that's my favorite series of movies for Batman, even though the Michael Keaton one it was good. I liked it. But Christian Bale is the way.
Yeah, so for me, like, my favorite Batman movie is probably The Dark Knight, but I think Affleck was probably the best iteration of Batman probably that we'll ever get. Just he was. If you ever look up there's a cartoon movie. It's two parts. It's called The Dark Knight Returns Part 1 and 2. Right. It's a comic book series that took Batman from hokey to what he is now, and they turned that into a comic book movie, and it's phenomenal. And Ben Affleck was his suit, like the suit right here, is almost exactly like The Dark Knight Returns. That's why they built it the way that they did, and he stinking tanked out for it too. Like he was a tank because he had to, because he didn't have he wasn't in armor. That wasn't his suit, so he actually had to fight, right? So he had to make sure that he was limber and all that sort of stuff. So, but The Dark Knight Joker, Heath Ledger's performance, like I don't know about you, but whenever I first heard that Heath Ledger was the first person I ever like publicly just ate crow over, to use an old terminology, because I raged online because I was like, at the time I think he was Brokeback Mountain guy. He was also the kid from what was that Night movie?
I know what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
A Knight's Tale.
A Knight's Tale, right? He was in 10 Things I Hate About You. So he was like this guy that just didn't fit the role of Joker, in my opinion. So I was like, I can't believe this. In the early part of the message boards, right? I can't believe that they cast this guy. Blah blah blah. And then like the first image of it, I don't know if you remember the first image. What they released is they released a completely black picture in just his face. Right now, you and I, we agree that he was a great Joker, at least I think. But like when you first see that image and his face is jacked up, you're like, what are they doing? Like, sir, what are you doing to Joker? Because we didn't know. All we had was a still frame of his picture of his face and nothing else. And I was raging online. But I was still first in line to see the movie.
Yeah, and and let's look at the Joker from Batman, Michael Keaton, and this one. It's like night and day. Yeah. And I love Jack Nicholson. It was funny. It was very comedic, which was kind of like almost like the what's the 66 Joker, his name?
Cesar Romero.
Cesar Romero, comedic. Yeah. And he was like that too. That now comes Heath Ledger, and it's like it's comedy, but it's different. I mean, it's dark comedy, and it's more serious, very serious, but
why so serious?
Yeah,
that's all right.
No, that's good. Serious, but dark, much darker, which made it just very interesting and so different. But they were great, though.
So I think that Batman Begins and The Dark Knight were just absolute phenomenal movies.
I agree.
I think that Rises, I won't go into it completely because I did this unless you want to hear it, but like I think Rises totally and utterly dropped the ball when it comes to what they were doing. And I think it boils down to this. I think it boils down to Heath Ledger dying. I think they had a road that they were going down. Heath Ledger died, and they're like, what do we do? I mean, it could have been Bane the entire time, but I doubt it, because you had Joker built up so much in The Dark Knight, and I thought I would assume that they would finish that story in the next one, and then all of a sudden Heath Ledger dies, and now what do they do, right? But just to give you a real quick shot, the biggest issue I had with The Dark Knight, and and Dark Knight Rises kind of thing was Batman became Batman because his parents died in an alley, right? He quit being Batman because Rachel died in The Dark Knight. He quit being Batman. So, and he came back for, it's like 7 years later to be Batman for like, let's say another like week and a half. So Bruce Wayne was only Batman in that universe for maybe like a year. Right. And then what does he do? He says, hey, untrained, undisciplined detective, you could become Batman. Gives him the cape and the cowl at the end of the movie. And it's like Bruce Wayne went through, I don't know how long he was up there with the League of Shadows to become like stealthy and all that sort of stuff. And he's just like, here, cop, now you're Batman. Now you're Batman.
Yeah,
It just didn't make sense. But
no.
and then he quit again. And that was my biggest issue. Just real quick shot into that was the amount of time he was Batman, and he quit twice. And that was could have landed the ship a little better than that.
Yeah.
So to pivot off of Batman and Superman real quick. Actually, let me ask you, what did you think of Henry Cavill as Superman?
I loved it. The Man of Steel, loved the movie. I liked Henry. So for me, it would probably be Christopher Reeve, then Henry Cavill. The music.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Hans Zimmer.
Oh my goodness, I fell in love with the music. The, and that whole the story was great. But it's interesting because when you look at the story in Superman 2, which I'm sure Superman 1 and 2 with Christopher Reeve were filmed at the same time, just released separately as a second movie, but it was done at the same time. When you think of that story, Superman 2, where he wants to become human and he wants to marry and be with Lois, and he gives away his Superman powers, and it was just kind of odd. I liked it, but it was just odd. But the story in The Man of Steel was just amazing.
Yeah.
It was great. I loved the suit, the character, how he portrayed Superman. I thought it was great.
What did you think about the controversial thing that people disliked the most about him killing Zod? Because that was a big deal in the comic world. If Superman killed Zod, I can't believe he did that.
Well, for me, it wasn't. Since General Zod died in you're talking about in the Henry Cavill series.
Yeah.
Well, since Christopher Reeve did it, in this one, in the first one, it wasn't a big deal for me. And again, since I never was really into the comics, as far as the story, for me, that was okay.
Yeah, the way I looked at it was Zod here gave him no choice. Like, if you remember, Superman has him in like a headlock, and then Zod starts shooting the laser beam out of his eyes. It's going toward the people over in the corner, and then it was either he kills Zod or he let Zod kill those people. Mm-hmm. So that was the reason why I didn't have a problem with it. And it's not like Superman got up and was like, killed Zod. No, he like screamed. Like he had a really, really tough time with the fact that he killed Zod. And I didn't have a problem with it. From the moment that I saw it in the theater till even now, I just don't have a problem with it. But did you watch Superman and Lois?
You talking about the Dean Cain one?
No. No, that was, I think that was Lois and Superman. What was the new one? The one that was on CW.
No, I never saw that one.
Okay, so Christy and I started watching that, and we kind of got away from it, not because we weren't enjoying it, but it was actually not bad of a Superman show. It went on for 4 seasons. It's the guy that played him. His name was Tyler something. I think if you watch it, since Superman is your guy, you may actually really like the show because he's a fun-loving. He's a stoic Superman, right? And the way that the premise of the show is Ma Kent dies, and then Superman, Lois, and their kids move back to Smallville, and he's still able to do Superman stuff because he can go wherever he wants in 2 seconds, right? But one of his kids start developing superpowers. So they're over here in the middle of, Smallville, and the kid starts doing superpower stuff. And then you also have the bigger story of Lex Luthor doing something, and then we kind of get into like a multiverse type deal that starts happening where we end up leaving off, but we're going to get back to it. But it's actually a pretty good show.
Yeah.
from what I understand, all the way to the very end, it was a great show. And when it went off the air, it didn't go off the air because of ratings. It went off the air because James Gunn pulled the plug on it because he said he didn't want two Supermen flying around. He wanted David Cornsweet as the only Superman flying around. What do you think about that Superman? I promise we'll get off Superman. We'll get off Superman here in a minute. But since you're a Superman guy, what did you think of the new Superman, David Cornsweet?
I haven't really kept much with that.
Oh, you haven't seen it?
No. As a matter of fact, you're talking about the latest one, right?
Yeah, the one that just came out.
I started watching about, I put it on and we watched maybe the first 20 minutes and I just couldn't get into it. I just couldn't. We were like, are we thinking the same thing? Yeah, no, I just can't. I can't. Especially with the dog. The situation with the dog. And then you have Miss Tess Marker. You know, I just couldn't. I was like, I can't see this.
Yeah.
So
I'm not going to, of course, spoil anything because at a certain point, I'm assuming you're going to go back. But they resolved the dog issue, and it made sense. But then like it doesn't because I think it's going to fully resolve itself in Supergirl that's coming out this year. But I mean, the movie, when you compare it to, I think my biggest issue with Superman, David Cornsweet, is it wasn't him. I think that he did a phenomenal job as Superman. I think Lois did a great job as Lois, and I think Jimmy did a good job as Jimmy. And the guy that played Lex Luthor, I think all four of them did a phenomenal job in the movie. They were just put in a really crappy movie. James Gunn is not the guy. I don't know if he can make a solo movie, and that's the problem. The focus of the movie wasn't Superman; it was Guardians of the Galaxy slapped on with the Superman logo. Is basically what it was, right? Because you didn't make it to the Justice Gang, did you? With Green Lantern and all them.
No.
So once they entered the scene, it was like, okay, the movie's about Superman, but then you got all this other stuff going on. And I get that they needed to start the universe, but you need to make a Superman-centric movie where he's not getting his butt kicked the entire movie, right? And that was a big issue that people had, and I sort of did too. Because Henry Cavill was basically invincible, he just was.
Yeah.
And this Superman was not. He definitely got his butt kicked a lot in the movie, and so I think that that's something they could fix. You also didn't get up to a point where I guess, well, not the biggest issue, but one of the main issues I had was, so you saw the beginning of the movie where you saw Jor-El and Martha, or not Martha, what was his, Laura, Martha, Jor-El and Laura, they had that message that they were playing over him. So, minor spoiler, that message was actually, somebody fixed it, so you got the entire message, because the robot was like, oh, the message was damaged, we don't know what it says. Foreshadowing, well, they show you that Jor-El and Laura sent him to Earth to dominate us. So it's like it's a total departure from...
Yeah, that's from the story. And thinking of that, I'm like, really? Come on. I always frame everything around 1978 Superman.
Yeah.
So that, you know, when I saw that part and all of that, I was like, come on. And then you're going to enter the Fortress of Solitude and destroy it. And come on, it's way overstretched. I was like, I can't see this.
So they go in, when they make it to the Fortress of Solitude, there's a reason. There's a really good reason why they're able to do it. And it plays out in the movie. So I don't fault them for that, right? What I do fault them is for Jor-El and Laura to be the villainous, or however you want to call it, which I thought was very weird movement. And James Gunn said that, oh, no, it wasn't a joke. It was actually, they sent him to dominate us. And I was like, that's not a good move. Because a lot of people had a problem with Kevin Costner in Man of Steel, because he wasn't like the positive, Pa Kent that, like 1978 was. But like for me, the reason why I didn't have a problem with it is with just a little bit of update, right? Like if you had a son that was an alien, right, you would not want the entire world to find out who he is, because the government would come take him, all that kinds of stuff. So I get the difference between, Jonathan Kent in Man of Steel, and then like Jonathan Kent even in this new Superman and previous Superman iterations, because Zack Snyder, I think, was going for more of a realistic, like, hey, he would be scared, and rightfully so. But yeah, maybe when you get bored one night, you watch Superman and finish it, and
Maybe.
because it'll lead into Supergirl. I don't know if you have any sort of draw into that, but
Not really. I saw the Helen Slater Supergirl,
mhm.
but that was about it. I'm not really looking forward to any Supergirl or anything like that.
Yeah, if you were to see, because Supergirl, minor spoiler, makes a cameo in Superman, and it was a huge turnoff. Huge turnoff. I was like, what in the world? How are you going to make an entire movie based off of that? And right, so the story that Supergirl that's coming out this year is based off of, it's based off of a story, a comic book called The Woman of Tomorrow. And the premise of it is, she lived on Krypton till she was like a teenager. So she had all these memories and all this stuff of her planet before it blew up. So the story of Woman of Tomorrow is her kind of dealing with that post traumatic stress of basically knowing all these people that died, right?
So, question for you, since you know a little bit more on this, what was the Supergirl character and that background in the original comics?
Like, are you talking like Action Comics?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't, I don't know. That's an interesting thing that maybe Dexter could look up to see when the character Supergirl was presented. Because I think when Action Comics came out, I don't think they were ever thinking of like a connected universe.
Yeah.
So when Batman came around and Action Comics was already doing its thing, I don't know if those were in the same universe until DC was like, yes, let's do this. And maybe Marvel did their crossover first and brought like X-Men and Fantastic Four together. I don't know. I don't know when the Supergirl character actually came about.
Because I'm thinking like, they somebody, if it was in the original Action Comics from that time,
Mm-hmm.
in the story there somewhere, then okay, I can see. But if 30 years ago or whatever, right before the Helen Slater Supergirl came out, they said, "Hey, let's make up that this he had a cousin or whatever, and this and now that birthed all the Supergirl series side."
Well, so here's what I'll tell you. Action Comics #1, Superman didn't fly. He jumped. Yeah, he
Really?
didn't start flying until later on. So like, there's been several iterations of Superman that has altered his powers and tried to keep him up to date because when he first came around, he was jumping over buildings in a single bound. He was faster than a speeding bullet, right? He was all that, and then all of a sudden he was able to fly, and then everyone, whoa, holy crap, this dude can fly because back then superheroes didn't fly, right? So now everybody has flying abilities, so they continue to up his powers.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because like a few years ago, they added to where because he doesn't necessarily bleed because he's an energy based character. So like when he absorbs the sun, he's absorbing power, and that's how he's able to whatever. So like now he's got some sort of power called I think like sunburst, where like he can just let out all of the stored radiation that he has absorbed to stay alive, or not stay alive, but you know what I mean. Like he can just release some of it. I don't know exactly what it is, but they just updated stuff all the time, and it wouldn't surprise me because when Supergirl came out, mid '80s.
I can't remember. It could be.
It came out in 1959.
So she came out in 1959 is when she was added to
The
his
storyline.
storyline. So she's been around for a while.
Yeah.
But for me, like, even if a character is introduced yesterday, as long as they do a good job with it, because, Harley Quinn, you know who that character is, right?
Sounds familiar.
Harley Quinn was like the girlfriend of the Joker for a really long time.
Oh, okay. It's that character in
She had her
the
own,
Michael Caine.
no, so she had her own movie a few years ago called Harley Quinn.
Oh, I never saw.
But yeah, but ultimately, like the only reason I bring her up, and then I promise we'll move on from the comic book world, is back in my childhood that Batman the animated series, like it was hugely popular. I don't know if you watched it or not.
I never did, but I know it was popular.
Right.
Yeah.
So they created this character called Harley Quinn, which was a girlfriend of the Joker, and they just created her on the show, and she became so popular that they put her in the comic books, and now she's one of the biggest things. Like if you look up there, I don't know if the reflection where you can see it, but the big box right in the middle, it's a Harley Quinn Funko Pop.
The blonde one.
Yeah,
I can see it.
Okay, so right here, the reflections, I can't even see it,
Oh.
but that's one of my favorite Funko Pops because it's got her face painted, and it's a phenomenal pop. As soon as I saw it, I said, "Can I get that for Christmas?" And Christy said yes. So 2 years ago, I think she bought that for me, and it sits up there because it's one of my favorite ones, just because Harley Quinn. And the reason I bring that up is she is recent in my lifetime. Like before the '90s, Harley Quinn didn't even exist, and now she's a phenomenal character that has been built up into the Batman mythos. Where, like, if you say Joker, generally the second thing that pops in your head is Harley Quinn, right? So it's like Batman, Joker, Joker, Harley Quinn, and the tragic story is like Joker goes to the jail or Arkham, and he is put in a psych ward, and the lady that's put in charge to try and help him, her name is Harleen Quinzel, and through their sessions, she thinks she's helping him, but he's actually brainwashing her, and then she goes from being this top psychologist to running around killing people with a Joker.
Nice.
So to switch it real quick, and I promise we won't stay on this one very long, but we were talking about The Office, so I have to ask. So who is your favorite character in The Office?
Oh, hands down, it's gonna be Dwight
Really? Okay. Why?
because he's nuts.
Yeah.
He's funny. He thinks he's just funny. I mean, he's always angry, because of stuff that people think. He always wants to do the right thing and think he's doing it right, but he's too straight and narrow. Like, remember in the first season, the episode where, he's a reserve police officer or reserve sheriff,
Yeah.
and someone found a bag of weed out and he turned the office upside down, thinking he's saving the world. He's going to find the culprit, put him to jail. This whole thing, hilarious, totally hilarious.
My favorite thing about Dwight is he's exactly what you just said, but then he's also the most gullible person in
Oh
the
my
world.
goodness, yes.
Like the time where they tricked him into thinking that he was part of the FBI, and then he went up on the roof, then they texted him and said, "You've been compromised, get rid of your phone."
Yes.
And he just throws the phone off of the building. Like, it's like he has these moments where he's the smartest person in the room, also the angriest person, but then also ends up being like the dumbest person in the room.
Yes, yes.
Here's what I'm going to tell you. My favorite character is still Kevin. Kevin, because like he's not in the show a lot, but when he is, it's always like boom, boom, boom. And over the years, Creed has started to rise up in my top 5 list, just because like we're in the middle of watching like our 5th run or 4th run of the show, and Creed is just like, I've been paying attention to him more, and he's just so stinking funny, right? He's not always in front of the camera, but when he is, like there was one time where I think it was Oscar had left, and he came back and he goes, "So what did I miss?" And Creed goes something to the effect of, "Michael got decapitated and we had a funeral for a bird."
Yeah.
And Jim was like, "None of those things happened." And he's like, "You didn't happen," and then he just leaves, right? That's like a perfect thing of Creed. But I think if you really truly had me make a pick, outside of Kevin, I think it was Michael Scott, just because, he basically took the entire show on his shoulders and he carried it till he left. I mean, the next episode that we're gonna watch is the dinner party, and the dinner party is I can't wait for it. I know what's gonna happen.
Is that the one? Because it's been a little while. Is that the one that him and his boss, that's his girlfriend, they're at his house. So, oh my goodness, Marty, my wife, she and we were watching this, and the kids, when he was raving about his flat screen, and it's this little thing like this big, they were crying.
Yeah.
I mean, they were laughing to that. They couldn't stop laughing. Literally, to me, I was like, why they keep laughing so much
Oh,
at that?
it's so fun.
But I mean, it
Yeah.
was just hilarious to them.
So I don't know if they've ever watched it or we've gotten into it so much we went into YouTube and looked up bloopers, and the blooper for that moment is insane because nobody can keep a straight face. Every single time he's like, "You see this plasma screen? If I need more room," and he pushes it up against, like it's like this super small little. He's like, "I just move it against the wall, dude." Like Jim breaks, like everybody starts laughing just because it's so stinking dumb. And then like Michael Scott, I forget his name in real life. He'll start laughing, but that whole scene was so tough for all of them to get through just because of his delivery and how absurd that whole moment was. So if you want to get extra laughs since you love the show, go on YouTube and look up bloopers because the bloopers are just as funny as what happens on the TV show.
For sure, I've seen some from YouTube, and I'll look for some more.
Yeah. But yeah, Michael Scott's my favorite. Like an honorable mention, I don't know how you feel about the guy, but like Andy Bernard, the Nard Dog. I don't know how you feel about that.
I like him. I hated every time he called Jim tuna.
Dude.
Like, well, what is that about? Like, but yeah, I liked Andy too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So my wife hates Andy. That is her top. That is her top person.
can't
She
stand
hates.
him.
She can't hate him. So like when Jim goes to New York, she's like, I hate this because that means Andy's coming.
Oh,
like, why you
my.
hate the Nard Dog for? And so other than that, like who's your least favorite character?
Oh my goodness. You know what? I can't.
While you're thinking, I'll tell you because I can tell you. I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but the lady that came in, she I forget her name. She's British.
Oh,
And she
yes.
came in and sat down.
She was on the series Doctor Who.
She was.
Yeah, I know which one. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would say so. Yes.
I don't think she's funny. I don't think her character's
No,
funny.
no.
And
I have to agree with you. Yes.
She-
Now that you brought that up.
yeah, she is the character I dislike the most. Like all the rest of the characters have their role, but when she shows up, I'm just like, she's not funny. Like I don't know if she's meant to try to be like the dry humor in a non-dry humor show. I don't know because when she comes over and she takes Andy's job or sits down at his desk and won't move, then it's just like this is I don't know if that's supposed to be funny or like people supposed to be laughing. I don't know. But one last thing, and then we'll move on. Did you watch The Paper?
I did not. I think my wife and the kids maybe saw an episode. I want to say I can't remember. I thought they did, but everybody says it's great. They say if you like The Office, you'll like The Paper. It's kind of like the same type
Did your
humor.
family like it?
I think she said that they enjoyed it and they wouldn't mind seeing some more of it.
We hated it.
Really?
We absolutely hated it. Um, there's a character that's just like that lady from that we were just talking about. I forget her name. And she is a main character, and she's just chewing the show up. There are moments in the show, like moments, not episodes, moments in the show that we kind of chuckled at, but for the most part, it was just like we were sitting there in silence watching this show.
Really?
And I'm not trying to. If you like the show, you like the show. But when we actually forced ourselves to finish it because we kept waiting because they renewed the show before it even aired. Like they were just like season 2 of The Paper, yeah. So we're like, okay, it's gonna be funny. We just kept watching every single episode. I think there's only 10 episodes in the first season, but like we laughed maybe 4 times, and maybe 2 of those times were because Oscar's in the show. So maybe it was because of him because we love Oscar and Oscar's a great character. But like we just did not like it. Season 2 comes up, we're not watching. Just not gonna do it. But now that we've gotten past the nerd portion of the show, because I wouldn't even plan on talking about The Office until you saw the picture up there of Dwight. I had that Christy used to work in an office, and she had like a corner office back when she was with a different company, and I had that delivered to her. So she walked up to her office one day.
Nice, that's awesome.
And she's like, "Who sent me this?" And she texted me a picture. She's like, "Did you send this to me?" course I did.
That's
Yeah.
great. That's great.
But for those that can't see it, the picture that I bought my wife, it's the picture of Dwight that he had in his office when he took over, and he's like this with the sun behind him. But so we know each other from church. That's how we met, and if I remember correctly, we hit it off pretty good.
Yeah.
Mainly because of our love for the previous Star Wars content, not the current content.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I at least want to start the conversation off there. Like, when did you, or how long have you been going to church? When did you get saved?
So, okay, so going a little bit, I gotta go. Since you asked when did I get saved, I'll go back a while. Um, growing up in the South Bronx, Catholic, Puerto Rican family, right? Um, that's, going to church. I went to Catholic school from third grade to eighth grade. And it all started when one of our neighbors, um, where I was living back then in the South Bronx, they moved to Florida. Right, they've got a house and we were close with those neighbors there. They lived on the same floor as we did, and they told my mom, "Hey," and asked me, "Would you like to go, or can we take him?" I was 16 or 17. It's either 16 or 17. It's not past that. Can we take him to Florida with us just for the summer? And we all said, okay. My mom was like, she was cool with that. Um, and I went with them for like 2 months, 2.5 months
Wow.
to Hollywood, Florida. They bought a house in Hollywood, Florida. During that time, the sister of the neighbor, already living down there, she tells me one day, "Hey, do you want to go to a camp meeting?" She's already Christian. Do you want to go to a camp meeting that we're going to? And I was like, sure, okay. So I went with them. This camp meeting is where it turned everything around for me, because up to that time, being Catholic, and I was an altar boy and all of that, and had questions, but I still followed that tradition. Um, uh, uh, During that tent meeting, there was a preacher, and he was very energetic. He was an evangelist, very energetic and everything. And he's talking about uh, his past. Now, here I am watching this evangelist preacher talking about his past. His past was messed up. Like, he was into drugs, gang, you name it, he did it. All this stuff that he was in, and how Jesus turned his life around, how he got saved, that you can be saved, that there's hope for you, you can change your way, all of this. And here I am, and he asks for people to come forward if they want to receive Christ. And here I am thinking, yeah, I want that. Wow, God can do that? Like, the God I knew as a Catholic was very limited.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of rules, a lot of man rules, a lot of non-biblical stuff, like the worship of Mary, the worship of saints, all of that stuff. None of that is biblical.
Right.
You know,
Totally agree.
baptism of infants, all of that stuff. I was like, what is? So I said, I want that. I go up there, he prays. I am bawling like a baby. When I tell you I was bawling, I felt something, and from then on, I was changed. But when I went back home, at the time I was big into heavy metal and all that stuff, and my mom, she had recently converted as well, and at that time I went home, and I went, Mom, hold on, I got something to do. I grabbed all my records from Columbia Records that I've gotten over the years. I think the statute of limitations for payment are gone, so I should be good. Um, and I took all the records and I went down the hallway to the incinerator, and I threw them one by one down the incinerator, and my mom was just leaping for joy. And that's where I started, and then from then on, it was just like going to different churches, trying to find the right one, and over the years, after during that time, we started going. Even we went to Times Square Church. Have you ever heard of David Wilkerson? So he's an evangelist from Texas. Um, have you ever heard of the book The Cross and the Switchblade? He wrote that book. It's a great story, by the way. And there's even a movie called The Cross and the Switchblade. We started going to that church. Then we went to an offshoot of it in the South Bronx, which is closer. And there's where I started learning and just everything God related. I was eating it up like crazy, like any books. Jack Chick tracks. You know what Jack Chick is? Chick tracks.
I know we used to hand out tracks back in the day, but I don't know what
Yeah.
tracks are.
Okay. They're kind of like small little booklets that are comic book tracks, like the tracks that you're used to,
Yeah.
but it's laid out in a comic form. Really informative. Lots of verses, different topics. There's like hundreds of different tracks. So anyway, started doing all of that, reading all of that, and just as the years went by, got married. When I met Marty, she was still Catholic too. She wasn't
Protestant.
born again, and I started talking to her about church and Christ and salvation and all of that, and about the Catholic Church. And she told me later on, like, she knew all stuff about Catholic Church and this and that, but she was like, I don't know, for some reason. And this is why we were just talking. There was no like, okay, because I like him and all of that, I'm gonna do what he says or listen. We're just talking. She told me later on, she was like, I felt everything you was telling me, and any other person would have talked to me about the Catholic Church, I would have immediately turned them off and meant, I don't want to hear it, boom, boom, and that's it. But I don't know, with you talking, I just felt like something drawn in all of that, and I felt the truth in what you was telling me, which is stuff that she had kind of like felt all along.
Yeah.
But initially, Catholics are very, very stern, and they don't want any any outside sources of anything. There's kind of like a saying, once a Catholic, I'll die Catholic, always Catholic, that kind of thing. But she finally, talking and everything, eventually she got baptized and all of that, and left away from that. And we just started going to different churches, trying to find the right one, and that's how I became born again, and my walk with Christ started. It wasn't until
in Florida.
It started in Florida, but it wasn't until I started going to International Baptist Church in Brooklyn. That's where I learned so much there through tutelage of the pastor and other leaders in the church, where me and my wife learned to sow in. The kids were going on the bus routes. Every Saturday was a soul winning Saturday. We'd go to the church, get a little class, and then go out into neighborhoods, knock on doors, or hand out tracts on the corner, stuff like that. And we did that for years.
Yeah. Such a lost art.
Oh
Such a
yeah,
lost art.
it's totally different
Yeah.
now, and I could truly say that's where I grew the biggest as far as my Christian walk, in knowledge, and while being there, I got to I eventually, not in this order, but while being there, we were there for 12 years. I was a deacon. I taught an adult Sunday school class. I taught a 9 and 10 or 8 and 9-year-old boys Sunday school class. I was in the choir. I was in the praise team. I played guitar for music. I was I was an usher. I helped count money, and me and the other guy bring it to the bank. I mean, basically, you name it, and I did it
Yeah.
there. Totally loved it. It was just, I was totally sold out, and just loved the ministry in that sense, and the learning that we had there was just irreplaceable as far as our walk and our growing, in the Lord.
So, so since you said that you were up in the Bronx area, so we always joke around here that there's a church on every corner. Is it anything like that up there? Because you said you because when you were talking about visiting a bunch of churches, I was thinking because I never like I flew over New York, going to Buffalo, and I hadn't
Yeah,
worked there. But but that's it. Like we'd fly in, I would go work, we'd fly out, and then fly in, I'd go work, and then fly out. That's as much as I've been. So when you say that you visit a whole bunch of churches, was there a bunch of churches?
well, I visited a handful of churches, but in reality, there's nothing like here.
Okay.
Oh yeah, no, nothing like here. Where literally here, there's a church just about in every corner, you could say. But
Yes.
over there are lots of churches there. But and there are 5 boroughs. The city of New York now has about 9 million people.
Right.
City of Fort Worth has just hit over 1 million people. So it's
Yeah.
it's a huge difference. But yeah, there are lots of churches there. Christian, almost every denomination you could think of is there as well.
So, since you have so much knowledge of up there versus down here, do you think that the amount of churches that are down here are a potential negative? And the reason why I mean that is so you went to this church and you served there for 12 years, right? And it's main reason potentially that you're served there because for one you were adhering to what God told you, but then you also knew that there was no other churches anything like this. Whereas just at the time that we have served at the church at Second Mile together, we have seen people show up and then they get mad because the wind blows the wrong way and then they leave and they go to another church. That's what I mean by that.
Yeah.
Is like, yeah, Texas has a bunch of churches, but like, is that potentially a negative thing? Because if the wind blows the wrong way and you get mad at the pastor because he parked in your parking space or you sat in my chair this week, I'm going to go to a different church. Oh, does that question kind of make sense? Like,
I think I know what you're trying to ask, and it's interesting because I think a lot of people here are it's because there's so many churches and a lot like churches, not like a Catholic one over here. There's a lot of like Christian,
Baptists. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Ton of Baptists.
and that type. Um, it's very there's a lot of, how can I put it, take church for granted. It's like a thing to do on a
Okay.
Sunday.
Way better way to say it than I did. But yeah, that makes
Right,
perfect sense.
right.
Yeah.
If you get my gist, it's like we go to church and listen to the message, peace out later, and a lot of people don't get together, don't connect, during the week, apart from church. It's almost like a ritual, if you will. I think a lot of people here fall under that, and that could be a negative in
Yep.
what you're talking about because there's so many. So, yeah, and one thing because of that, I think is a lot less soul winning, if you will, of the type we know, knocking on doors, giving out tracts in the corner, because of that.
Yeah.
You know, so maybe because the city is growing so much, there could be a potential for more evangelizing because a lot of people are moving here
Yeah.
from other places. So there could be a resurgence of old school soul winning, knocking on doors and things like that,
Yeah. Hey, I used to do it. I do it, on the show that I do on Twitch. So it's not the same as
No,
standing in front of a person, but
no, of
still,
course.
just because we used to go down to the stockyards and hand out tracts and
Hmm.
talk to people, and those were drunks. Those are drunks you're talking to most
Yeah.
of the time. It's cleaned up just a tiny bit. I mean, I guess I can't say that because we don't go down to the stockyards. But whenever we were going down there, I'm sure there's still a bunch of bars. But like when we were going down there, we were going down there like 8 and 9 o'clock, right? Because we were trying to get the people, because that's when it's the most whatever. But handing out tracts and dealing with drunk people is crazy. It's crazy, but we were doing it, right? Because that's where we all felt called to do. And but yeah, I think that knocking doors and soul winning is just is a lost art, because the last time that we truly did it was we went to a church right around the corner here when we first got married. We served there for 5 years before we felt called to a different church, Trinity. Trinity, and I think they still do it. I don't know, but like every Thursday, like it was a requirement if you were in leadership of the church, you go door knocking. So like I was door knocking with a guy who eventually became the head pastor of the church. Me and Kyle were going door knocking. So like that's what we did. And then maybe one week I'd get paired with somebody else or whatever. But it was just one of those things where we'd show up on Thursday, we would eat, and then we would go out to the neighborhoods around.
It's we'd meet up on Saturdays at the church, have a little breakfast, and then we get lessons, like a challenge. When I started, I didn't know how to soul win, so it was lessons on soul winning. Then I went with someone that was obviously more experienced in doing it, and I wouldn't say much in the beginning. It was just going out, see how it's done, and get to learn how to do it, what Bible verses to use, how to talk to someone, and all that. And eventually, then after a couple of years, then I took someone under my wing, and I was the one teaching. And and over years, especially right before the whole COVID thing started, people would. We were received a lot of different ways. Like there were people who knocked on doors. Hey, I'm so and so. I'm visiting from International Baptist Church, just out here in the community, asking questions and just inviting people for church. Do you go to church anywhere? And some people would say, well, first of all, if they didn't hear me, they would say, what church do you go to, or what religion? Oh, we go over here, International Baptist. Okay. I thought you was going to say Jehovah's Witness or whatever. They they weren't received so well. And they would want us to talk to them. And some people would stand by the door. They wouldn't invite us in, which was fine, but stand by the door and speak to us for half an hour.
Yeah.
And other times, but right before when COVID started happening and everything, that just started to be like, okay, we can't do that. Or we go to areas where it started getting gentrified and people didn't want us in the building. Literally. Oh, you can't come in here. You're trespassing. And we'll knock on the door. Go away. Stop knocking on my door and all this.
Yeah.
So after a little while, it just got a lot harder to do. And then we had to basically just like, we can't do it like this anymore. It's just, so, but the art was there. For years we did it. I loved doing it. It was great. We would go hang out and talk to people. And, some people, you try to give them a track or, hey, let me talk to you. And they're like, no, I'm good as they walk by. And I'm saying, man, they're just saying they're good. I don't need God. I'm good. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So it was kind of sad because people are just like, and let me tell you, coming from the Catholic faith, they really do believe that if your good outweighs your bad, you're good with God.
Really?
Yeah, I'm good. I don't rob, steal, haven't killed anybody. I'm good.
I did my confession this week. Everything's fine.
Yeah, I was helling the whole rest of the week, but I did my confession on Saturday. Yeah. I'm good.
So I want to throw something at you. Tell me what you think about it, because you reminded me before we started recording that you play video. You used to play a lot of computer games. Mm-hmm. So during the course of my time doing Fire Resistant, I met this guy named Missionary Gamer. Like now he's not able to do it full time, but he used to play video games full time specifically to meet people and give them the gospel, right? He was playing this game called Ark, and he would have these kids show up to his servers, and he would give them Bible studies. He would take them on missions and all this sort of stuff inside the game, right? Mm-hmm. He never met any of these kids in person. that's not necessarily what I wanted to talk to you about per se. So he was using Arc to give the gospel. Anything that any game that had area speak, where you could speak in a microphone, your character would automatically just your voice would come through. That's what he would play to talk to people. But there's this, you can't really call it a game, but it is a game. It's called VR Chat. I haven't looked at it in years, but I've always had this crazy idea ever since I ran into Missionary Gamer, because Missionary Gamer and I would go into VR Chat. VR Chat is a game that is built specifically what you think it is. You have an avatar and you're just standing around talking to people. It's not a video game where you can hop or whatever. People just standing around talking. So what we would do, go into different rooms, people are talking, and then we would just join the conversation with them. Like, hey, how's it going? Mind if we talk? Yeah, sure. And the reason why I think that this may tickle your fancy, because it is in the world of computer games, I have a screenshot that I can show you. I can try and find it and pull it up, of him talking to three guys, right? I was in the background, because generally when he starts talking, if I start talking to someone, then he would stay in the background because we didn't want to step on each other's feet. But I had this picture of him. He was talking to, I think it was like Peter Griffin, Skin, right? Peter Griffin, Deadpool, and let's say the third guy was Wolverine, right? And all three of them were from different parts of the world. And he was in the mountains of Minnesota, and I was over here in Texas. And he was giving the gospel to three guys that were in three different points. Like, they just met each other talking in VR Chat, and they listened to him, conversed with them for like 30 or so minutes. Granted, they didn't convert or anything like that, but that's wild that we can do that now. And there's such a mission field in the gaming world. It's crazy. And that's just one story of many of him and I going into VR Chat and talking to people from around the world. It's crazy.
It is. And, as long as you can use a medium to give the gospel, and you're doing it from the heart, and you can reach someone, and somebody, when they go to sleep at night, they can think, oh, we were talking about this. And what about God? What if he's real? That planting a seed.
Yeah, that's ultimately what it is.
I think it's great for those that want to do it.
You and I can start going to VR Chat then?
Probably not, but for those that can do it or want to do it, I think it's great.
All right, so let me go back to, and again, these questions are because I'm so naive when it comes to New York. And so when you say the 5 points, okay,
5 boroughs?
5 boroughs.
Yeah.
5 boroughs. So I think of forgive me, Gangs in New York, right? Gangs in New York had that, where like, what, 5 boroughs is because there's 5 things where 5 different boroughs meet up, something like that.
Yeah, the 5 boroughs would be like, how can I put an equivalent? I guess if you think of, but some of them are actually separated. Think of like Keller, Watauga, North Richland Hills, Haltom City. They're all like right there.
Yeah.
But they're all in the same city, part of the same city, but they're different sections, if you will. That's kind of like the borough. Like the borough of Staten Island is literally an island by itself, of right across the river. Now you have Manhattan Island. It's actually an island. The Bronx is physically connected to the United States. Manhattan is not, because it's an island. Yeah. Staten Island is not, because it's an island. And then you have Brooklyn and Queens. They are physically not connected to the United States, because most people, when they think of Long Island, they just think of a separate section. And Long Island also geographically includes the boroughs of Brooklyn and Queens. Geographically, it's part of Long Island, but only Brooklyn and Queens are part of the city of New York. Then the rest of the island is Nassau County and then Suffolk County, compromise. So when people say, oh yeah, I'm going to Long Island, they're just saying I'm going to either Nassau or Suffolk County. But geographically, they never mean Brooklyn or Queens, because they would just say I'm going to Brooklyn or Queens,
So if you said that you were, so like you had mentioned earlier that you grew up in the Bronx.
In the South Bronx, I grew up until I got married. I lived there.
So if you saw someone from Staten Island, were y'all immediately at odds, or is that not the way that it worked out?
No, not really. No, because pretty much people got along and stuff. But there's always that thing. Oh, the Bronx is better than Brooklyn. No, Brooklyn's better than the
Yeah,
Bronx.
yeah, that's what I kind of meant. Like,
Like that kind of thing. Especially when it comes to sports. Like I grew up in the South Bronx, and I'm a Yankees fan. Even though I'm not a big watcher or big baseball fan per se, but I like the Yankees. Been to a couple of games as when I was young, and my wife, she grew up in Brooklyn, and she's always a Mets fan because before, her dad was a big Brooklyn Dodgers fan. Then the Brooklyn Dodgers moved
L.A., right?
to Los
Yeah.
Angeles, so the next one to step up in the plate, okay, yes, they're technically in Queens, but since those two boroughs are geographically connected, we'll just follow the Mets. So it's always like two City of New York teams. It's always going to be,
One or the other.
yeah, oh, the Yankees are better. Nah, the Mets are better. And I always tell my wife, I say, well, it was settled who was the best in the year 2000 when the Yankees beat the Mets in the World Series. So that's settled. She's probably going to get on me for saying that,
Yeah.
but
So, yeah, so I knew that there was a Yankees Mets and a Giants Jets type deal because, again, I always try to shame the devil and tell the truth. I grew up and still do listen to the Howard Stern show. So, like, I've always known that there's just been something in New York where, people were always, like if you were a Yankees fan, then you hated the Mets, and if you were a Giants fan, then you hated
yeah,
you hated the
yeah, yeah,
Jets. But
that's
like
it.
but
That
then,
rivalry.
yeah,
Yeah,
but then
that's
like the
there.
Jets, if you were a Jets fan and a Giants fan, or yeah, Giants fan, then you both together hated the Buffalo Buffalo.
And Rangers and
Oh
the,
yeah,
the Rangers and
the Flyers.
no
No, not the
the
Flyers.
the
Yeah,
Islanders,
I'm sorry. Yeah, yeah, you're right. The
New York
Islanders. Yeah,
Islanders, New York Rangers.
yeah.
The Islanders are from Long Island, and the Rangers are in the city of New York. So that
Yeah,
was that was another rival thing.
so every time that I speak to somebody on the phone that is from New York, I always kind of just ask them like, "Who do?" It's like, so I always have to ask, and they're like, "What?" I'm like, "Are you a Yankees fan or are you a Mets fan?" Just because that's the most of the thing that they talk about.
Yeah, yeah,
talk
true,
about.
true.
And it's funny that getting to hear like they'll say something like you did, where I don't really watch it, but I'm a Yankees fan.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me go off a little topic. Just you mentioned, did you grow up in Houston?
So my mom's basically the whole side of the family lives in Houston. So we've lived in East Texas and here in Dallas Fort Worth.
Okay. Oh, okay.
So I would spend,
You were born and raised in Texas.
yeah, I've
Okay.
never, well, I mean, I've never lived anywhere outside of the state. I've visited a few states, but I've never been.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So, but like East Texas, where in East Texas?
So have you ever heard of the city Tyler?
I've heard of Tyler.
Okay, so
Yeah.
there's Tyler that we lived in.
That's a little bit east of Dallas, right? Not
Yeah,
that far.
I think it's 2 hours east of Dallas.
Okay.
And then we lived in a really, really, really small city called Mount Enterprise. And the best way to describe where that is, so if I remember correctly, Jackson went to college in Nacogdoches. So I think you have to go through Mount Enterprise to get to Nacogdoches. And growing up, and we visited there when we buried my grandma, but the school's gotten a little bit bigger, but they used to have K through 12 in the same building. That's how small that
So
was.
it's interesting because never knowing much about Texas when I lived born and raised in New York my whole life, I thought everybody in Texas spoke banjo. You know,
Who says we don't? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
uh, like for PT and Michelle, especially her, their drawl is really, like
It's a lot.
it's a lot. Especially, I'll never forget. And if Michelle hears this,
She won't.
that first time when we were talking about something, making desserts, or whatever, she said, "I think I'll make a pie." I'm like, "A what? A pie?" I'm like, oh, you mean a pi? She said, no, pi is 3.14. So I thought that was
Yeah.
hilarious. But, I didn't know that even within Texas, there's areas where, okay, so east, closer to Louisiana,
Yeah.
there are people apparently that speak a mix of, they have a different accent than people in Houston or
Yes.
West Texas.
Yes.
I'm like, what? And then being only ever in Fort Worth for like almost 5 years now, there's some people that I can hear some type of accent, but there's a lot of people. I'm like, I couldn't even tell that you don't have no accent
Yeah.
per se, that I can say, oh, this guy's from the South.
I think what it boils down to is like for me, when it comes to, I think, and I know that my accent comes out with specific words, like
Maybe.
like y'all,
Okay,
or
yeah,
like
yeah.
mayonnaise or something like
But
that.
generally,
Yeah.
to me, you don't have what I would consider a Texas accent.
So part of that comes from the fact that I used to do mortgage collections, and here's a funny story for you. Um, I'll never forget it. I've forgotten so many things in my life, birthdays and stuff like that. But I've got this old lady in my head when I think about her. I called a lady from. She was in New Jersey, and it was the mortgage company I worked for was C&D paper, right? That's the basic bottom of the barrel as far as credit score from a mortgage standpoint, right? So they made us call people on the first. So your payment's due on the first, late on the second. They started making us call people on the first. So I get this old lady from New Jersey, and she's like, it's the first. I was like, yes, ma'am. We're just calling if you want to set up the payment. She said, don't call me till, because most people think that their mortgage payment isn't due till the 15th because that's when you get the late fee. So don't call me until the 15th. I was like, okay. And she's like, what kind of accent is that? And I was like, accent? And she's like, yeah, you sound like and I cannot repeat what she said, but she said some colorful things to me. And I was like, I'm in Texas. She's like, something Texas. And then she just started busting my chops over my
No
accident.
way.
Yeah, and like when you're in the company that I used to work for, it doesn't exist anymore. But when you worked there, you couldn't hang up on them, right? I mean, if they started getting too overbearing, then you could. But she wasn't really saying anything like that was too bad. And then by the end of the phone call, I was laughing. But like I was like, okay, so that means I need to alter the way that I talk. And again, y'all, or if you make me say something that like peanut butter or maybe pie, right? Generally, I would probably pronounce it like that.
So you forced your way out of the accent. That's
Had
what you're
to.
saying?
Had
Okay,
to.
okay.
Because,
I don't think I could do that.
if you talk to the people that I had to talk to,
Uh,
it's
that's
pretty
it.
rough because like you would work from a specific time. So like for the first 2 hours, you were calling East Coast people, right? Then you were calling Central, then you were calling Mountain, then you were calling West. So you started off with this, and then you worked your way across the United States because you're working on a dialer, and you would surprise you how many people would be like just giving you dog crap
Oh my
about
goodness.
accents. So
I cannot like change or try to force change because to me I'm thinking that's hard to do unless I get like a coach or whatever and talk like this. But I remember I was somewhere and a guy passed by. This was maybe like 2 years ago. I was at my job and the guy passed by and he heard me talking to someone. Literally, he heard about two sentences. He stops. I saw him walking. Then he comes back and he goes, "Hey, are you from Brooklyn?" I'm like, how in the world did this guy pick up where I was from? And he wasn't from Brooklyn,
yeah,
but he said specifically, if he would have said, "Are you from up north?" Okay, I get it. Because maybe to him I sound different. But he said, "Are you from Brooklyn?" I'm like, how in the world did you know that? So that blew my mind. I was like, wow.
so because my job as a realtor and other jobs I've had, I've spoken to people just around the United States. There's specific things that, like you talking, I wouldn't be able to say the Bronx, right? But I could, but based off of some things you might say, I might be able to pick up that you're from New York. Like the big thing with New Yorkers is numbers. So like the way that you would pronounce like one, two, three, or like nine, right? Because some people say nine, but up there it's more like nine. So like,
I
so
don't think I've ever said nine like nine.
it's. I'm not saying you, but I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah,
saying it's
yeah.
like a
In
thing.
general.
It's in general thing because you I'll be talking to someone, like Memorial Sloan Kettering is a big cancer hospital up there in New York, and they'll call, and before I know that they're from Memorial, we'll chit chat a little bit, and then he or she will be like, hey, I'm calling about this claim that's nine, and when they'll say it, I'll be like,
Yeah, yeah.
I know they're from Memorial, but yeah, there's little nuances to that. But okay, so another question I have to ask: on a scale of one, meaning no hate, to 10, absolute fire hate, how much do you hate Boston?
Uh,
I'm
that's
just,
well for me. It's gonna be probably none because
oh come on.
I was never big into that Yankees
Mhm.
Boston rivalry. So, and I've been to Boston several times.
Mhm.
On vacation to stay. Visit there for a week. So nothing but a good time that we had with family. Us, my family, going up there visiting the sights and sounds of Boston, right?
Boston.
Yeah.
Boston. No, I was just kidding. I know you didn't have hate for the city, but it's just one of those things where you always hear that there's this hate between the two cities,
Oh yeah,
kind of
yeah.
like Philadelphia and Dallas for whatever reason. When you go to Philadelphia, don't let them know you're from Dallas.
Really.
Yeah, you get beat up there. So I just didn't know if that was a thing because so like I haven't like Christy and I have been talking about vacation this summer, and like I would really like I love history, and I haven't been to DC. I haven't
Oh
been to
my goodness,
yeah,
you're
I've been
gonna love it.
yeah, and I want part of the thing I want to go to is Boston. I want to go to New
You're
York
gonna
City.
love
I want
Boston.
to go to all that up there because it's for one, I've never been there. Two, is our country, and
That's where
like
it started.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's where everything started.
And it's great. You'll love DC. The Washington Memorial, or just all of that. We even got to go, we've been there several times, like several days where we stood several days or stood a whole week. And, one of the coolest times was going to the U.S. Supreme Court building. They put us in a room, talk to us and you're in the room where they actually hold Supreme Court hearings and stuff.
Really?
Yeah, it's so cool. Uh, D.C., where Abraham Lincoln, where he was shot, like we're sitting in the pews of the Ford Theater, which are really small, by the way, the seats. And then they're like, yeah, right up there is the balcony where he was shot. They still have it like with some memorial stuff on there and whatnot. And then you walk across the street to the building where after he was shot, they took him to and put him on a bed in this room that room is blocked off with plexiglass, but you can see in the room where the bed is and everything. And they take you and show you in a glass display the pistol that was used to shoot him is there.
Wow.
It's so small, but the little pistol that was used is just so much to see in the Arlington Cemetery, the
Yeah.
National Cemetery. Amazing, where JFK and his family's buried there, and all that. It's just amazing. General Lee, his house. Excuse me, not Lee Grant. Or maybe he is Lee. I can't
No,
remember
it's
that.
Grant.
It's Grant. Yeah, his house overlooking the whole cemetery, and it's just amazing. You're gonna love when you go there. You're gonna love all the tourist stuff
Yeah.
to see and do.
So I'm not asking this question to take us down any other path other than a yes or no. Do you still think they do that Supreme Court stuff since January 6th? Do they still let you go in there? Do they still let those tours happen?
Um, I would say I don't see why not.
Okay.
Um,
Not that that would stop me from wanting to go,
yeah,
but
yeah.
you just like you blew my mind because I didn't know that they let you go into the room where
Where they
they
hold hearings.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that blows my mind.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's very. You go to U.S. Capitol. We've been in there and stuff. It's just, and then Boston. You have the Boston Tea Party area. You go check that out. You see the oldest ship still commissioned by the U.S. Navy, USS Constitution. It's there. You can see it. You can tour it. It's just great stuff there to see and do in Boston as well.
That's Christy had a friend that her husband was in the Navy, so they, if I remember correctly, I think they lived in Boston. So she got to go to Boston.
Oh, cool.
So we got a couple of cheers glasses in there because my dad loved that show.
Yeah, we went there.
So we have two cheers glasses, but yeah, we have that from there. And like, I want to go to the city. I want to go to Chicago. Like, there's a lot of places that I want to go, but for real, before Dexter graduates, I at least want to go to DC.
I would say hit up DC first.
Yeah.
Also, every time we go on vacation, and we go every year, all the way up and down the East Coast. So we've been to Williamsburg, Virginia. We've been to the South Carolina, Myrtle Beach for a whole week. It was always from a Saturday to a Saturday. You got to do DC first. Great place to visit. So much history there, obviously, but good stuff that you're going to love it.
Yeah.
You're going to love it.
Christy was talking to me the other day, and she's like, "Are we going to go to DC?" I was like, "I kind of want to." And she's like, "Well, then when you start planning it out," I'm like, "You're right." So
do you like aviation?
Yes and no. I know the Smithsonian is there.
And the reason I asked you, because the Smithsonian is a good place to start because they have an aviation section, space section, stuff there, really cool and stuff to see. But anybody, if you're an aviation enthusiast, if you love aviation, about half an hour away from there in Chantilly, Virginia, is their Annex Museum, which is actually next to Dulles International Airport. And, I mean, they have the space shuttle. No, I forgot the name.
Columbia, maybe?
No, didn't the Columbia blow up? I forget.
No,
Challenger blow up. Because it's not Columbia. I forgot. It could be. I can't remember because
the Apollos.
No, space shuttle, U.S. space shuttle that went to space. Yeah. The one that they want to say they want to bring back here to Houston, which I don't think that's right to do. Anyway, it's there. The Enola Gay is there. Do you know what the Enola Gay is there? You see it, walk right up to it. They have catwalks that you can walk on the catwalk and then see it from above.
I think you just sold me on just seeing that plane. I'm a big World War II guy.
Oh, me too. Yeah. That's one of I love World War II history. That's one of my specialties. Air France Concorde, you see so many planes there from history. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Yeah. Like, if I would have known that the first time I went to DC, I would have been like, no, we're going to here first. Forget Smithsonian. That's kid stuff. Yeah. This is where you got to go.
I should have known, but I did not even think about the fact that the Enola Gay would be somewhere preserved.
Yeah, it is. It's preserved.
Yeah, we're gonna go. We're gonna have to figure out a way to go because I didn't know that was there. I would love to see it, and then sit in it and get thrown in jail for sitting in it. I'm just kidding. I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, no, you can't even sit in it, unfortunately. Yeah, but
no, I wouldn't.
But you could take tons of pictures of every aircraft that's there. I mean, it's amazing. That's like a mecca for aviation enthusiasts. You love it.
There is not as good as what you just described, but we went to the Aviation Museum out on Pearl Harbor, over in Hawaii, and it was pretty.
Okay,
pretty cool.
So since you mentioned World War II, and I just told you I'm a big World War II buff. Particularly, I love the Pacific Theater history of World War II. That is my number one bucket list. It's at the top, to go to Hawaii so I could go to Pearl Harbor, because that's where the Arizona is. That's where the 6 Japanese carriers launched 350 planes on Pearl Harbor. And the 6 carriers, I always like to mention them: Akagi, Kaga, Hiryu, Soryu, Shokaku, Zoikaku. People are like, why do you know that? I don't know, because I love World War II Pacific Theater history. But anyway, you'll love.
So I'm going to tell you something, and remember, envy is it's a sin in the Bible. I'm just kidding. The reason why we went to Hawaii is I had a buddy of mine that was in the Air Force, so he was stationed at Hickam Air Force Base. So, nobody knows who he is, so I can say this without getting in trouble, but like the building that he worked in had an eternal flame in there.
Oh
So I
wow.
got to go inside a building that was shot up, and what they did is they fixed the inside of the building that he worked in, but they left the bullet holes in the building. So there's a lot of bullet holes or there's a lot of buildings at Hickam Air Force Base that actually still have
They left
the
it.
hole. They left the holes on the outside, not the inside.
Yeah.
And then the building that he worked in, there's an eternal flame specifically for the people that were lost on Pearl.
That's not open to the general public.
No,
Oh man,
no,
that's
he would've
so
gotten- yeah,
awesome.
he took me into the area. Again, nothing was top secret, right? He took me into an area that he worked, and I got to see where he worked. He showed me where he worked, but we had to be like in and out of there. And he's like, "You got to see this," and he took me over there and he showed me, and I was like, "Holy crap!" I was like, "I didn't even know this was here."
Wow.
And so yeah, there's in the building that he worked in, there's an eternal flame for the airmen, or maybe all the people that were attacked. And it was to go to Pearl and go on the boat and go to the area where you sit down and you have where nobody talks and all that sort of stuff. It is overwhelming, because you know that people are underneath you, or remains are probably all gone by at this point, but there are people that are underneath you that served our country and were just hanging out. Not everybody that was, generally everybody doesn't expect to die the day that they do, but that day they were.
No, 3,000 people died on that ship that's still there.
Yeah.
It's like when people go to the World Trade Center area and the memorial and all that. And it's sad because as time goes by, a lot of people forget. They talk about, we never forget.
Yeah.
I'll never forget, because we lived through it. My wife, my two oldest, which were very young at the time, and I lived through all of that, and it's like, wow, when you're there. Like, I've been to, like, people go and they'll go to where the buildings stand and the lights, when they put them, and you see all the names and stuff, but to really experience it, you have to go inside. It's not that expensive. You go inside, you go walk through an area where the building, the interior or the basement walls of the buildings are still bare, and that's part of the museum. It's still preserved like that. They have fire trucks there, police car, ambulance, wrecked. One of the antennas, a big giant piece of it, all mangled up, is there on display for you to see, and all of that. And I didn't want, in the beginning, I didn't, they were like, oh, if you go there, they don't want nobody to bring guns there, like cops and stuff, so you can't go there with your gun. You have to go to, I'm like, I don't want to go there. Why are they restricting us, cops? But when I went, I was like, wow, I'm so glad I went there, because it is eye-opening. It's so, when you see all the artifacts they have photos, they have a room where they have people's items that they own, that they died with, watches, ID cards, half burnt and stuff on display, and they don't want anyone taking pictures in that room. But it's kind of like, overwhelming. It really is interesting, and just, again, to know about what happened. A lot of the folks born nowadays, they don't, to them it's like Pearl Harbor is to us, because we weren't there or anything. It's more special to me because I love World War II history, so I'm always watching documentaries, have videos, books, and all that.
Yeah, so Dexter and I were talking on the way home from church on Wednesday, because we knew you were coming here, and more than likely, I don't say that we need to, but more than likely the subject of 9/11 was going to come up. But me explained to him what it was like. Not that I have anywhere near what you went through, but like, 2,000 miles south of you, like we're here in Texas, and I was trying to explain to him the paranoia that day, because no one knew what was going
Of
on.
course, a big national event.
Right, and I can tell you that I was at work, and people were talking about, hey, I think because over down here, I don't know if you ever heard anybody down here talk about it, but like the big rumor it was that like somebody had flown like those planes that you see flying around here, like the little, I guess, two-seater planes. Like that was what the big thing was where I worked at, was like somebody had said that a plane had flown into the World Trade Center, and they were saying it was a two-person passenger. We're like, what the heck? How did that happen, right? So I called my dad up, and he picked up, and I was like, hey, Dad, I was like, are you watching the news? He's like, yeah. And I was like, what happened? He's like, I'm not sure. And then he said, oh my God. And I was like, what? He's like, another plane hit the other building. And I was like, what? Because I was on the phone with my dad when the second plane hit. And I was just like, what in the world? And he's like, yeah. I was like, was it another like two-seater thing? He's like, no, that was like a full stink. He was like a full jet. And we were just on the phone, and we just couldn't fully comprehend. He saw it, of course I did later on the news, but like hearing my dad say that and going through, that us watching it on TV is completely separate from actually being there.
Yeah,
And
no, and I don't mind talking. I like talking about it. It's I don't nothing wrong with it, I think, and stuff. So I'll tell you, when at the time I went through New York City Police Academy. I started in September of 2000, graduated in May 29, 2001. So here
so
we
like a
are,
couple of months
just
before.
a few months after. Here comes. So I'm still in a field training unit type deal that we're working for like 5:30 p.m. to like 2 in the morning. That kind. So I'm sleeping, and my wife wakes me up, and she goes, "Hey, we had a TV in the bedroom," and she goes, "Hey, they saying on the news that a small plane hit the World Trade Center." I'm like, "What?" She woke me up, and I'm looking at this. Oh wow, that's crazy. How does that happen? Now they're showing the video. I'm a big aviation buff too. I could see the damage from one end of the building to the other, pretty much straight across. And I know the buildings are huge and wide. So I said to her, I was like, they said a small plane. There's no way a small plane is going to do that much damage. That looks like a huge plane, like an airliner type deal. And then we'll watch. She goes, I don't know. That's what they're saying. So I'm looking at that. I'm like, that's not a small plane. And just watching and listening to what's going on. Then the other one, I was like, oh my goodness, another one just hit. And now, like a little bit after that, one of the guys I worked with at the precinct, he was new also. He had a car. I didn't have a car at the time, so for me to get to work, I always got on the train and stuff. And we didn't have to go until like 5:30. But when that happened, I don't know. It could have been anywhere from half an hour to an hour later. He calls me. He's like, "Hey man, they calling everybody in. We have to go in." So I was like, "Okay, let me get dressed." He said, "I'm gonna pick you up. So get dressed and I'll pick you up." So he comes over, picks me up, shoot over to the precinct, get dressed. And literally, I mean, the first day of that, they had us just standing outside the precinct station house. They set up barriers in all the precincts. Because again, they don't know what's going on.
Yes.
It seems terrorist. They don't know what they're going to attack next or whatnot. So the station house was completely surrounded by those blue police do not cross wooden barriers. So now the public is restricted access to the precinct building. And I didn't know what really was going on as far as over there in Manhattan, but apparently, I'm here, everything is shut down. The tunnels are shut down. The bridges are shut down. Police have closed every entryway into the city of New York. And as far as any vehicles, unless it's emergency vehicles, they will let you in. But so we're working there, and I'm a brand new rookie standing outside the station house, and there's so many people now gathering around those wooden blue barriers, and people are asking, officer, I have my uncle or my niece or whatever is missing. Can you help me find them? And I'm like, I don't know what to say or do. First of all, I'm brand new. And second, I mean, the world is upside down right now. How am I going to do this? And I felt so bad that I couldn't help them. And there was so many people. It's almost like they went, hey, can you help me with this? Can you check to see if so and so is still alive? I want to find out. And that was hard. And at the same time, at home, my wife is going through stuff with the kids, and I remember before I left to go with my partner to go to work, my wife and I, we went to the school where my two oldest, they were in elementary school. I think they were like in fourth and fifth grade or something like that. They were elementary. We go to the school. It's a public school. They're up the block from where we lived. And we go, my wife goes, yeah, we want to, all this is going on. We want to take our kids home. Well, I don't know. We're going to have to speak to the principal and find out. And some stuff that was said, my wife was like, no, it's going to happen. We're going to take our kids right now. So let's start moving.
Yeah.
Eventually we got our kids
Yeah.
and we went home, and then she started doing stuff, going to the bank, get some money, because we don't know what was happening and all this. And then I went to work, and then, her dealing with her sister worked at the post office right there at the base of right across the street from one of the buildings. Wow. That fell. So when that happened, she was really upset about, she don't know her sister just become obliterated underneath all this rubble and stuff. And I remember when she finally called her, she was like in tears and everything. God, you okay? Whatever, her sister's fine. But that was a really weird time where we didn't know what was going on, what to do. It wasn't until, so that day, 9/11, it wasn't until the 12th or the 13th, I can't remember, they actually sent us to Manhattan to work. Like a whole New York City bus full of cops from the precinct. And we were all now at this time, regular days off canceled. And we were working at least 12 hours a day, every day for several months, for a few months. So like I said, the 12 or the 13, it could have been the 12. We go to Manhattan. Now we're all on this bus and no vehicles at all allowed into Manhattan. So it felt eerie, the bus going over the Brooklyn Bridge. Oh, no, I think it might have been the Brooklyn Bridge or the Williamsburg Bridge. And there were no cars on the bridge. Yeah. We get into Manhattan, no cars on the street anywhere. What I'll never forget is that it looked like it just snowed, but it was a cap of dust everywhere of snow, like when it lightly snows, but is a good amount that you could see everything is white. And I'm like, wow, and then I'm thinking, wow, this is the dust from the buildings settled on everything like snow, undisturbed. It looked eerie. Everything is quiet. Everything's covered in this gray, white dust. And we're just going slow, the roadway, everything. We're going through the streets to the muster point where we go. We met up. There was a bunch of other cops and supervisors, and they give us, okay, you guys are going to be in standing. Basically, we're there for pedestrian control and controlling the area from access. So we're there, and people are. We have barriers set up, and no, you can't walk down. This area is closed. South of Canal Street is shut down, like you wouldn't believe. No entry south of Canal Street, and which is from there to the World Trade. There's only several blocks, and we actually one day got to meet. Do you remember this show called America's Most Wanted?
Yeah.
With John Walsh.
Yeah.
We actually got to meet him. He was there. But there were a couple of times where we were on a break, and okay, you guys are on break for a little, so we will walk right up to the buildings, literally across the street from the building. We were there, and all the rubble, the smoke, the fire still going, and I'm 55. In my life, I've never smelled a smell like what I smelled that day when I was there. Never. It was like acrid, I mean, it was just a horrible smell of chemicals and this and that. It never smelled anything like that in my life. And it was just horrible. And we were there standing like, wow, this is what it looks like. I mean, the rubble and everything. And it's kind of weird how the buildings fell pancakes straight down. I'm thinking a building's gonna fall, they're gonna fall this way, but how they were designed and happening, everything pancaked straight down. But it was just unbelievable. That time and several days. And then if you remember, a month later, we were still periodically being sent to Manhattan on foot posts. One day we were on a foot post near the World Trade Center, and I think it was World Trade Center 6 or 7, collapsed a few days after the World Trade Center. Like, how does this happen? And it's like, a little, not far away, but maybe a block or so away. It's in that very close proximity. And we're standing nearby, and we're hearing an alarm and run, the World Trade Center 7 is collapsing. So we're all running away from this air. I didn't see the building. The building wasn't in my view, but we didn't know how this was going to affect. So I remember running in one direction, and then, all right, everything's safe, whatever, the building fell. And then a month later, I'm standing on a foot post further north near Canal Street with a buddy of mine from my priest, and then we're standing there talking, whatever, and we hear on the radio, another plane fell. And we were like, oh my goodness, again, another terrorist attack, what's going on? Thankfully, it wasn't. It was an American Airlines Airbus 330, I think it was, that fell on its way to the Dominican Republic. And it fell in Queens. Everyone on board died, obviously, and there were a few people on the ground that died. But at the time, we're thinking, oh my goodness, another attack, another airplane.
Why wouldn't you think that?
Exactly. We all thought that. The news thought that, everything. But, later on, we found out it was just a wind shear from another airplane that had just taken off right before, and the pilot overcorrected the tail rudder, and it snapped off, and to use too much pressure, apparently, and it snapped off, and that's why the plane fell. But at the time, it was just very crazy time where everyone was on edge as far as like, is that guy a terrorist? So, it was just crazy, just nuts.
So, melding your faith and what you witnessed, like, do you remember how not that you would doubt God or anything like that, because no matter what evil happens, the objective truth of God is still there, but, like, do you remember how you felt, like, when it comes to, like, God at that point, where you're just like, God, like, wow, like...
I was more in that, never really questioning, because as we know, stuff happens, you know. But I saw so much humanity come out during that time. People helping each other, a love of police. At the time, it faded rather quickly afterward, but at the time, love people. I love NYPD, this and that. I remember hundreds of departments sent people out here to help. I saw cars from LAPD, there were cops from Texas, from up Boston, you name it, there were cops there. We had cops visit our station house, and they were Christian, I guess, and they were in uniform, the whole uniform and everything, and they were talking to us about, gave us like tracts and stuff like that. God can help you during this time if you're having any, having emotional issues and whatnot. It was cops from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, and I thought that was neat. I was like, wow, they send cops here from everywhere. But, going back to that, I never wavered in my faith or questioned God because of what happened. It was just a bad incident that happened. Yeah. But it's interesting you ask that, because I've always thought I did 20 years in the New York City Police Department, And about 7 years of that, I was on patrol in the main streets of Brooklyn. You know, where I worked wasn't as bad as other areas, but there was some rough times, especially during the summer. You know, so it was busy at times, very busy. But there were other areas in Brooklyn that were way busier.
Yeah.
But anyway, you know, after my years in patrol, I went to work at the shooting range for the department. And I never really thought about it at the time, but afterward, I was like, man, I've been to jobs where if you name it, I probably went to it or handled it as my job, or went to it, it was someone else's job. Robberies, shootings, stabbings, suicide, um, sex assault. I mean, like I said, you name it, I went to it. I was there. uh, where cops, where they shot a perp, where a perp shot someone, and I went, hey, what happened? Oh, he ran this way, he shot, so we had to stay there, me and my partner. It was just everything. And I saw people that had OD'd from drugs, and I saw people that had passed away and decomposed in their apartment, and that's a bad smell too. Where
How do you compartmentalize that?
so I'm getting
Okay,
to
okay,
the
okay.
so such. I remember the first time I ever saw a dead body, and it was two people that had overdosed, drug users. And I'm saying to myself, wow. And it hit me. I was like, these people are dead. And I hope that it's sad if they died without Christ,
Yeah.
an eternity without Christ. And I'm thinking to myself, and thinking this, and so while I'm seeing this, thinking it's so sad, to die without Christ. And I felt so sad for them, but I'll tell you, and this is why I started telling you this, um, over time, especially after I left patrol, before I became a cop, people, and during the time, people were like, "Hey, man, do you drink, or do you?" No, I don't drink or any of that. And they're like, "Trust me, once you get in there, or once you go to a precinct and start seeing these jobs, trust me, you're gonna think different. You're gonna be drinking." I know a lot. They'll tell me, if you're a detective in the New York City Police Department, the divorce rate is through the roof because of everything they deal with and all of that. But now, getting to your question, I have to say that without 100% doubt, it was my faith in God and my walk at the time that kept me sane, if you will.
Yeah.
If I don't even know if that's the right way to describe it, but it kept me grounded. I never, and you can ask my wife, she can never say, oh, he came home and locked himself in the room for hours because of something traumatic he saw or dealt with or whatever. I will come home sometimes and be like, oh man, I went to this accident and it was terrible. And this happened and all this, that was sad. But anyway, what are we watching tonight? you know, that kind of stuff. I
Yeah.
never took the job home, not because let me go home, let me switch to a different role because now I'm home and I don't want to talk about it. It was just never there.
Yeah.
So I used to sometimes would ask myself, not sometimes, I just, one time I was telling one of my buddies, I'm like, dude, like, I don't know, like, am I normal? Like, shouldn't I be messed up because of all of this that I saw and did? Shouldn't I be messed up? I feel like I'm not. Like stuff bounces off of me. But looking back now, from that time, thinking back and all that, I'm like, I know that was the hand of God
Yeah.
over me. And mind you, I worked with people that maybe they didn't show it, but maybe they did go through stuff because of what they saw. I felt like I said, I was like, man, stuff is not affecting me like I thought it would. Like, but again, it was because of that relationship that I had with God, that faith, that family, church family, and everything that I had. So I felt like definitely looking back, that was a huge impact in me staying grounded, staying humble, staying level headed as much as I did. But yeah, man, there were a couple of times that I was like, I was talking about that recently to a guy and telling him, yeah, I did all this and all that, but man, I felt like I should have been, is there something wrong with me that I'm not taking stuff home and being messed up,
I think, is it the word called sociopath?
Maybe, I don't know, but maybe, but
I'm just kidding.
no, but I'll tell you, coming here and especially in the last 2 years, and let me share this, and you can let me share. Recently, I was talking to a guy that was a cop with me. We didn't work together or anything, but um, I met him through a teaching program that we were doing through the police academy, where I was on loan to the academy for a couple of months, and we were teaching a wellness program to the entire police department. It was like a cycle every day, people coming through getting this training about wellness and dealing with stress and all of that. And I had a module I taught as well. I did this for like 2.5 months to like a room full of 200 cops every single day.
Wow.
And but we got taught this curriculum first to then be able to teach it, and we have videos and all that. But anyway, I met this guy there and found out he was Christian, also born again, and we would talk. And so I kept in touch with him over the years, until I retired. And it wasn't until recently, a couple months ago, I was like, man, Max, I haven't spoken to Max. I wonder how Max is doing. I got to call him. So the other day he calls me. I'm home and I'm doing something. I don't remember. I saw his name. Oh, snap. Max is calling me. I can't pick up now. I texted him, hey, can I call you later? Yes. On my way to work, I call him. Hey, how's it going? Blah, 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 this and that. He tells me, so how is Texas? And I'm telling him my walk through the jobs I had here. And then I went to a police academy here. Again, I don't know what happened, but I ended up in the police academy, and it was a great experience. Very difficult academically. I always tell people, people ask me, oh, you went to 2 academies. How was in comparison? I'll say this. I always tell them this. The police academy here felt literally like 4 years of college in 5.5 months. That's how much stuff they throw at you.
Wow.
No, and that's no exaggeration. It really is so much in comparison to what we were taught over there. We was taught well and everything, but here they teach you, because over there we have separate units. So if you want to do a particular thing, okay, you're going to get this training for 2 months. You'll do that. Here, there is, no, especially for a regional academy, no, everybody gets everything. So anyway, I'm talking to him and I'm telling him about that experience, and I say, hey, you know what? This also happened to me. So and you know this, but I'm going to give you the detail now. I started the police academy here in July of 2024. August 23rd, which was a Friday, and the reason I remember this is because August 25th is my wedding anniversary. Mm-hmm. This is why I remember these dates. August 23rd of 2024, I'm already about a month and a half in, and this had been happening to me somewhat, and I'm going to get to that. So we're doing some defensive tactics training in the gym, and I start feeling really nauseous. And I tell the instructor, hey, I feel real nauseous. And he's thinking, he's like, take a breather on the side there, drink some water. Maybe you're dehydrated. That's what I thought as well. Maybe you're dehydrated. So one of the guys in my class is a paramedic, not was, a paramedic. He was in police academy because he's in Keller Fire Department. He's going to be a fire investigator, so they have to go through a police academy. So he's checking me out, and he's checking me, this and that. He goes to one of the coordinators, yeah, I think you should call an ambulance for him. So they call an ambulance. I'm like, what's going on? Ambulance comes, they take me to another room. check me out. They check my blood level with a prick and stuff and check. Okay, it's normal. They do an EKG. You're probably dehydrated. They notice something a little off on the EKG. Have that checked out. It's nothing serious. Could be nothing. Have that checked out. But otherwise, you're fine. You're probably dehydrated. So I go back to the training and I don't do anything else. I just watch from the side for the whole day because that day was 8 hours of that particular training. Go home at nighttime, go to bed. Friday night into Saturday, because we were doing all these different moves and stuff and acrobatic stuff, my shoulder was in searing pain. So I'm thinking I probably pulled a muscle.
Yeah.
So I go in the morning. I tell my wife I'm going to urgent care. I couldn't sleep. I woke up in the middle of the night with searing pain in my back, the muscle back here. So I go to urgent care. I go by myself. Yeah, I'll be back soon. I go to North Richland Hills to a urgent care there, and here it is. I tell the guy. I tell the doctor, hey, by the way, can you check on this? For the past several weeks, maybe 4 or 5 weeks, I've been feeling like a burning sensation in my chest when I run or do anything strenuous. Even if I walking up a hill, I feel like my chest is burning a little bit. Not like severe, but burning enough that it's bothering me. So I said, all right, let me check. So he draws some blood. He comes back about 20 minutes to half an hour later. He goes, okay, is your car here? Did somebody drive you? Or your car here in the parking lot? I said, it's out there in the parking lot. All right, we're going to leave the car there. It'll be fine. I need to call an ambulance for you. I said, what? Wait, whoa, what's going on? He said, your heart's enzyme levels are through the roof. And that leads me to believe you just had a heart attack at some point. I'm like, what do you know about heart attacks? People go, oh, my arm, they pass out, or are on the floor, cardiac arrest, right? Like you're unconscious. That's what I'm thinking heart attack is. So I'm like, a heart attack? I've been conscious the whole time. I should be. So now putting everything together, I'm thinking to myself, that's the nausea. Because when you that's one of the symptoms. You could feel extremely nauseous. Mm-hmm. And I was very nauseous. So I go to the hospital in an ambulance. They do more blood work. They put a dye in me and do a CAT scan to see where the dye goes and all this. Doctor comes back a little while later. At this point, I'm already, they registered me into the hospital. I'm staying in it. Then he goes, okay, so this is what we have. You have a 99% blockage in your heart. And I'm like, what? Like, where is this coming from? A heart attack? 99% blockage? Like, if I was still in New York City Police Department and that happened, they would, 99% blockage, you can get a 3/4 pension disability, you're done. Out the door, bye. So now, so that was on the 24th, Saturday. I get all of this. He said, I'm going to prep you for a stent. Right? Well, usually we put stent through your groin area, so we're going to prep that, but we can do it through the wrist. So they prep me, take me down the whole night, the same day. I'm there in the room. The room feels like it's minus 10 degrees. They put really hot, nice, warm blankets on me. I'm going to give you a nice sedative. I'm there with my arms outstretched and pinned down, and they start prepping me in the groin. I'm like, wait. You said you was going to put it through the arm. He said, no, that's fine. We're going to go through the arm, but very rarely somebody's body structure won't allow the stent, so then we'll have to go. So luckily they were able to go. And I was awake. I was talking. I didn't feel any pain of anything. They did the whole thing here and put it right. I could feel something moving through here.
Some of those alien movies feel
Yeah, I felt it, but it wasn't painful. It was, you just feel something. So they did the stent, everything. Sunday, I go home. I'm discharged. Monday, I go back to the police academy and I tell one of the coordinators, hey, this is what happened to me over the weekend. He's like, did you tell your boss? And I said, no, but I'm going to tell her. He said, you better tell her now. Okay, I'm going to tell her for sure. So he must have gone to the office and called her himself, because about half an hour later, I'm in the classroom. My boss shows up, takes me out of the classroom, takes me in the next room. What happened? You didn't tell me. Why didn't you tell me about this? I thought I was gonna, get fired or whatever. No, you got to tell me about these things. Now they want to kick you out, and you could come back in the October class. And I said, Kat, I've been here a month and a half. I don't think I could do this again. Again, remember I told you the stress and the amount of work and everything in this academy. It's rated as one of the best, or if not the best, regional academy in North Texas, if not all of Texas. Is that known? And I was like, I'm not coming back again. I'll go back to the old job, but I'm not doing this again, starting from day one. So she said, okay, this is what they want. She comes back and said, this is what they want. If you get your doctor to give you a note that says you can do this, and you're able to do it and whatever, then you're good to go. And I said, okay, for the next month, we weren't doing any PT anyway. So for a whole month, I could still go there every day and not do no running, no jumping jack, push-up, whatever. I don't have to do, because we're not doing it. Our schedule doesn't have that for the next month. So I'm like, I'm good. So you can do this. Okay, so I go the same day to the doctor. I said, hey, doc, got in his office. They're going to kick me out of the police academy if I don't have this letter that says I can do this, you're authorized. He goes, looking at you and checking you out, I got a good feeling about you. I think you're good. Gave me the letter. I go back, give it to them. They say, cool. I stay, graduated the police academy in December, and I'm good to go. I've been working now for a year. Love it. Great place, people, everything. And, Aaron, I said to myself, God is real. God is good. I'm not worthy, and I said to at one point, I actually said, God loves my family, because he didn't want me without them. Or didn't want them without me. Because if I know for a fact, Aaron, that God caused the pain that made me go to urgent care. Because for the chest thing, I thought I had some type of acid reflux or whatever. I was taking Pepsid and whatnot. I thought eventually it'll pass. I was not going to go to the doctor for that at all. Didn't have a thought about it other than, hey, can I get something stronger than Pepsid or whatever? I think I got this. But I could have been running or doing some PT stuff and then done. But I know for a fact, without a shadow in me of doubt, that God caused that pain so that I could eventually. It was so bad that I went to urgent care because of the pain. And since I was there, I was like, hey, by the way, can you check this out? And that's what got the ball rolling.
Yeah, within 24 hours.
And sent me to the hospital. And I know that God is real. I told my friend that, Max, and he was like, bro, what an amazing testimony. You have to share that. And I was like, you know what? I'm actually going on a podcast in a couple of weeks. I am going to share that, because I probably only told a couple of people, like 2 of the guys from my old job at the range in New York, and the people from here that I know from church, but not in that detail. But I told him that. He was like, bro, I feel so rejuvenated in my faith. I feel so lifted up because of that testimony. You have to tell people about that. I was like, yeah, man, I never thought of that. That's so good. Because, man,
right?
What a testimony. Right. He said that was an amazing testimony. That brought my spirits up. God is real, what God can do. And, every time I think about that, I say to myself, God is. He is. There's a song I listen to from Times Square Church. Me and my wife love this song called God Is. He is. He is. He is real. He is our healer. He is what we need him to be, what we come to him for. He is our provider. He takes care of us. So again, some people might hear this and be like, come on, man, God's going to cause you pain so that why he does that for you and not for someone else? Answer that. I don't know. Because God is merciful. God is forgiving. God is, and again, we could go on a rabbit trail on that question alone, which we won't. But again, for me, I know that God loves me. God loves my family. He didn't want them alone and without me. And that was like a huge thing that's like the biggest thing that's happened to me since probably I got married and had my children.
Yeah.
And me getting saved, because that showed me that God is real, for real,
So when they, a follow-up question, you can tell me to go jump on a lake with this question. So when they installed the stent, did you get like a what is it, like as soon as they opened up the valve by placing the stent, did you get like a whoa?
So I didn't. So while I was at the hospital and everything, I didn't feel any chest pain or any burning sensation, because that would only happen if I was doing something strenuous, like running or walking fast or walking up a hill, where I now start. Now I'm like, oh man, my. So when I was at the hospital and everything, I was fine. So when they put the stent and all that, I felt just as good as they did before. I just now never got that a burning sensation in my chest again.
The reason why I asked that is there's a director that I followed for years. His name's Kevin Smith, and he had basically the same story that you did, just minus God because he's an atheist. But he said that when they installed the stent, like he said, he got like this, like the blood, like I guess,
like he felt instant relief.
he felt like this is the way my heart was supposed to be working the entire time. Like the blockage was I guess, diverted, or the blood was diverted back, or whatever, how the stent works. They basically said that once it was turned on or whatever, he felt like this moment where he was like, so this is what it's like to have a functioning heart, because I guess he had dealt with blockage for a really, really long time. He just didn't know it to the point where he was about to go on stage and he felt the nausea, so he went and laid down to sleep it off, and when he woke up, he still felt whatever, so they called ambulance, and that's when they basically did the exact same thing that they did with you, is they were like, we got to get you over here now.
And I always thought, when I get older, if I get a heart attack, I'm gonna, what they say, oh, if you have a pain or numbness in your left arm or this, the symptoms. I never got any of that. Yet I had a heart attack. The only thing I had was burning sensation in my lungs. Oh, actually, not even that, because it was the nausea.
Yeah.
That means I must have had it while I was doing the DT stuff, and that's when I started feeling really nauseous. And real quick, I'll explain the stent, what it does. Let's say this is the artery, it could be small. For mine, I think it was a smaller one. If this is it, inside the blood flow works by having unrestricted movement, but when there's fatty deposits and whatnot, it's like a clogged drain. And so now the pressure is higher because now not that much blood is flowing. So what the stent does is they put this wire with this device that goes up to, let's say, where it is, because he could see this while he's doing it. And the old method is that they had a balloon and they blow up the balloon and they push all the deposit away and they take the balloon, they disinflate it, if that's the word that I'm looking for, and they bring it back out. And now all the plaque has been pushed out of the way, so now you have more flow. Well, what the stent does, it stays there, and it's made, I don't know, it's not made out of metal, it may be plastic, I think. So what it does is, you ever seen those things that people, it's a small device built like a building or ball, but they can open it and it opens up like it has all these sticks and stuff and it opens. You ever seen that? Yeah. So basically that's what that is. It's really thin, and then when they blow it up, the device opens up and now it wraps around the wall. It's like a tube inside of a tube now. and it pushes all the deposits out of the way. And now that part that was clogged is now has a new tube, if you will,
Yeah.
in there. So now the blood flow can flow freely again. And, part of that buildup, of course, has to do with diet. A lot of stress can add to the buildup of the deposit quicker. Like if you have 6 months of stress or whatever, going through high stress, it builds up the cortisol, which eventually builds up a lot of that deposit even quicker. So never had an issue with anything. I was stressed out about the academy and stuff, was going through a lot of stuff there, worrying about certain things there, and am I going to be able to pass if I get kicked out? Now I'm going to, fail out and this and that. So amongst other things, I was stressed a lot during that time. But I always go back to, I thank God, and that might sound cliche, oh, thank God that I did. No, I really do, because he caused that pain for me to be able to go to urgent care, which eventually led for me to getting checked out and getting the stent put in there. Because, like I said, if it wasn't for that, I wasn't going to go to the doctor.
You would just kept pushing through.
I would have just kept pushing through.
Because we're men. That's what we're supposed to,
Yeah.
that's what we're supposed
But
to
no,
do.
and I tell people that, I'm like, wait, you got the stent Saturday, Monday you went back to work, and you just kept going to work for the next several months till you graduated in December, like nothing ever happened. Yeah, like, man, you're like, that's crazy. Like, you're like Superman. Like, I never thought of anything other than, okay, I feel better now, I can keep going.
I think what it is, so in our generation, like when you heard somebody had a heart attack, it was a catastrophic event.
Yes.
Like when you hear my dad talk about his dad having a heart attack, it was an absolute catastrophic event. Whereas like now, because we've been blessed so much through science and medicine and everything like that, that yes, heart attacks are still a massive problem, but like they can literally stick a thing up your arm, your hand and fix it.
Yeah, and again, when we think of this, seeing 1978 Superman, Clark Kent's dad, he's running with him, and then he gets like,
Yeah.
oh no, and then he drops, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's what most people think a heart
Yeah,
attack.
and that still happens.
Yeah, oh,
That
absolutely,
still
absolutely.
happens.
But I didn't know there's different things that can happen from that to the least severe, which is what I believe I went through, where I didn't even know it happened, other than, man, I feel really nauseous, you know?
Well, Dexter gave me the thing that we're at the 2 hour mark, so we blew through 2 hours. We could still keep going.
I know. I felt like that's
I
what
know,
2 hours?
I told you that it would once we start talking, it starts going. So there's still a lot of questions that I want to ask and conversate about, but I definitely want to. If you since it looked like you had a good time, maybe we can do it again once your schedule opens up. But I want to be respectful of everybody's time, so I had to bring that up that we hit the 2 hour mark, which surprised me when he was like 2 hours. I was like, that was awesome. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation.
Oh, so did I. Yeah, absolutely.
And I mentioned to you that at the end of the podcast, we always have like a words of wisdom moment because the whole goal of this podcast, right? And I'm telling you this so that way you would know. So if you know anybody that would benefit from coming on here, by all means send in my direction. Like my goal is to have everybody from all types of backgrounds. Doesn't have to be Christian. I had an Orthodox Catholic here, but I think she was episode 6 or 7. But ultimately, like my goal is to have as many people, many backgrounds as possible because we've all lived totally different lives for the most part. But as Americans, like we also live the same. Like we didn't even get I wanted to talk to you about growing up in the Bronx as far as being a kid because for me, like all I have are dramatized movies of what it was like living in the Bronx.
Oh,
Right?
I would have loved to have gone into that.
Right. So there's still going to be a part 2 because
Write it down so you don't forget next time.
No, I'm not going to forget. We just ran out of time. But ultimately, there's questions about that I want to ask, and because here it was just riding bikes in street hockey, right? And it may have been the same up there, but we'll keep that for the next time. But like I had so many questions just about living up in New York, just because it's so foreign to me. Because just like you moving down here was foreign to you
Yeah.
until you get acclimated into it. But ultimately, back to what I was saying is like I want to be able to talk to people and learn about their childhood, whether it be good or bad. So if anybody comes across this and they're like, oh, okay, well, like with you and telling the story about your what you went through with 9/11, just going through the academy, what you just went through, and praise God that you're still here because your
Amen.
family, not your family would stop going to Second Mile, but like you and your family are such a joy and a blessing to the church that we both attend to.
And I
So,
want to talk about that too because that was another huge prayer, answered prayer that I want to talk about in depth next time we continue with
and I
how we ended up at Second Mile, which is
and I was going to ask about that. So like I was going to ask about how you proposed. Actually, you know what? Forget about it. I'm gonna ask this question and then we'll go into words of wisdom. We got to
okay.
do
Yeah,
this. Okay.
sure, sure.
Okay.
Go ahead, go
So
ahead.
for whatever reason, for like 3 podcasts in a row, I was talking to people and the engagement was brought up. So I just started asking people how they were either asked to be married or how that they asked their wives to marry. Did you do like how did you ask
Oh,
Marty
okay.
to marry you?
So this is going to be out of the how it's normally done. You know, where you ask the dad for permission, and then you take on a nice date, and you get on your knee. Outside of that, when we were going out and started dating, and we were just so tight, and we couldn't stop. We couldn't stay away from each other as far as like talking, especially on the phone.
Yeah.
Once I left her house to go back home, on the phone again, as much as possible,
Right.
together all the time. So one day, I don't know what came over. I said to her, "Hey, let's get married." That's how I proposed. I said, "Hey, let's get married." Or you want to get married? Either let's get married or you want to get married. And she was like, "Yeah." And it was that easy, that simple. There was no drama. There was no anxiety. There was no fanfare. There was no. And from then on, we just planned it and we did it. And this was this August 25th will be 36 years.
Wow.
And
Congrats.
yeah, thanks. So that was that's how that came about
Okay.
as far as that.
That's still an epic story that y'all were both so in tune that you're like, we should get married. She's like, you know what, we should.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah, thank you for sharing that. Just real quick, because I know I've told this a few times. Like the way that I asked Chrissy to marry me was, so I was a single dad, and she was the daycare teacher for my son, and that's how she came on my radar. Basically, she was his daycare teacher. So when we started dating, and then when I knew I was going to ask her to marry me, we talked about it first. But then when we popped the question, I had my son Brett do it. So he got down on one knee and said, "Will you marry us?" So she couldn't say no.
That's actually cool
Yeah.
because she was not just only getting you; she was getting it. So
Yep.
you had him do it, asking, "Will you marry?" That's actually pretty cool, actually.
Because he was 4, yeah, 4, and when we got married, he held it together. And the only reason I said that this way, you'll find out why. He held it together for the entire ceremony of the wedding, right? So we walk down we're pronounced man and wife. We leave, we get out there, and then as soon as we get out the door, because you probably don't know this, but we got married at Second Mile, but it was Parkland at the time. And we walked out the door, and Brett just falls on the ground and just starts bawling. And I was like, "Uh-oh, this isn't good." So I pick him up and I take him to where
How old was he at the time? You
he
said.
was 4 or 5, somewhere around in there. Let's see. So we got married in 2005, so he was 5 years old. Or no, he was 4. He was about to turn 5
Yeah.
because he got married. We got married in April, and his birthday's in May. So I take him into PT's office, which it wasn't PT's office; it was Brother Bandy's at the time. And I was like, "Hey, Brett, what's going on?" He's like, "She was supposed to marry me."
Oh my goodness, that's
So he
hilarious.
thought because he asked her that she was going to marry
Oh
him.
my, that's how, and here I am thinking like, wow, he's a young kid that is really deep into the. He's like, emotional about you getting married. His dad gave. No, he's crying because he thought he was gonna marry. That's hilarious.
That was going to be his wife.
That is.
He asked the question. So, but yeah,
That's
yes.
great.
But that's what happened there. So, anyways, thanks for sharing that. So, like I was saying before, at the end we do words of wisdom. So, by all means, the floor is yours. The camera's right there. Just whatever you want to say, and then we'll wrap it up and we'll get you home.
Man, I got like a couple of things, but one thing is, I guess I'm thinking of right now is, like I told you, this August will be 36 years that I'm married, and I cannot tell you how amazing being married to Marty. She is literally the rock in our house. She helps keep us together. Me being a cop in the first few, while our two oldest were young, she held down the home. I was working evenings for almost 7 years while I went to the range, where I was able to work the days. But she held it at home. She raised them. She did everything with them. I'll say, husbands, love your wives. I know it may sound cliche-ish because it's in the Bible and whatnot, but that's one thing that I'm so thankful that I have her, because even through the beginning of the academy in New York, she took care of me. She fixed my clothes. She made sure I was set and ready to go every day. So she was really like, so I just, and the other thing besides that, I love some of my favorite Bible verses, and 1 Timothy 2:5, for there's only one God and one mediator between God and man, and that is Christ Jesus. And that goes to any other, I don't want to knock down any religion or anything, but Jesus is the only way to heaven. He says in John 14:6, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man come to the Father but by me. Jesus is the only way to heaven. There's no one else. You know what? There's a song called I bowed on my knees and cried holy. You ever heard? Oh, yeah. So I love the Brooklyn Tabernacle. I have all their CDs. One of my favorite songs. In that song, there's a part that says, where he's talking about when he gets to heaven, I want to see Jacob, John, Abraham. But I want to see Jesus because he's the one who died for me. Those are the guys, those guys are cool and all that. You guys are all right. But I want to see the one that died for me. Yeah. So I don't know if that was a words of wisdom, but I just want to share something.
You gave the gospel.
There it is.
You gave two things. You said love your wives, right?
Uh-huh.
And you gave the gospel.
Amen.
That's as much wisdom as you can give to anybody. So I appreciate you saying that. And JR, like I said, we're definitely going to do part 2.
I'm psyched to do it because I want to get to how we got to Second Mile, talk about my upbringing in the South Bronx. And now I could say I'm more of a Brooklynite because I live more of my life in Brooklyn than in the Bronx. But I lived in the Bronx during the roughest times of New York City, the Bronx history, if you will.
What was it, before Mayor Giuliani came in?
Oh, yeah. I lived in the Bronx from when I was like in my maybe like 1 or 2 years old, around there, up to until I got married. So I was 19. I lived.
Yeah, we're definitely going to get into that. Plus, I want to talk to you about the guitar.
Oh, I'm down.
We'll talk about that off channel, but then once we get back there, we'll talk about it again. But
okay.
Once again, Jared, thank you for dropping by.
Thank you for inviting me, and I feel a little bit honored that I got to do this. Like,
Told you it was easy, wasn't it? We got talking, and then boom, here we
I
are,
know,
two hours
wow.
later, 2.5 hours later. But with that being said, everybody, if you're in the DFW, if you're connected to me in any way, if you're not connected to me in any way, if you want to be on the show, message me, like, share, subscribe, anything that you can to help make the show grow. We're back. We're going to do more shows in 2026, and we're hoping to just grow this thing. Because, like I said, the goal is to interview as many people as possible, and then maybe move up to Oklahoma. Not move, but like go up to Oklahoma, because it's called Aaron Ask America, not Aaron Ask Texas.
Yeah.
So my goal is to interview people from around the United States. But with that being said, this has been Aaron Ask America. Thanks for listening.
Aaron Ask America, we're talking real life. Truth, love, and struggle, no filters, no hype. From the heart of the people to the soul of the land, he's asking the questions you'll understand. Aaron Ask America.